Deadliest Catch is an honest look into one of the world's most dangerous professions, but how real is it, really? Turns out there may be quite a bit of TV magic at work. Questions about the authenticity of Deadliest Catch have been circulating for a long time. In fact, a close look at the Season 4 premiere revealed that some events had been deliberately remixed to create a nail-biting incident that actually never happened.
That's not good.
The opener showed the Wizard struggling in a massive storm. Huge waves coupled with a leak below decks suggested that the ship was in immediate danger of sinking. But the massive waves were filmed in October, a month after the Wizard's crew scrambled to fix the leak. It was such a big deal that Discovery's president, John Ford, made an official statement about the scene, explaining, "The Wizard was struck by a big wave, and that wave caused the leak you see in the show. The thing we didn't have on camera was the actual wave that struck the Wizard. That was shot at a separate time on the same journey. We did that for the story continuity." Ford went on to explain that the Deadliest Catch production team routinely does pickup shots to help with the storytelling, saying, "Nothing is made up, and nothing needs to be made up." So, what exactly are pickup shots? They're usually reshoots done after the main filming and can be necessary for a variety of reasons. Sometimes they're used to fill in gaps in the story, and sometimes they're needed for technical reasons. For example, if a shot is out of focus, it might be reshot, and sometimes footage gets lost or corrupted. This means that audiences aren't necessarily seeing exactly what happened, but according to Discovery, that doesn't mean they're lying about anything. And pickup shots can be a big deal. In 2010, Discovery settled a lawsuit with the Hillstrand brothers. The network claimed they'd violated their contract by refusing to participate in a planned 2-hour special and failing to return to film a series of pickups. How often these filler shots are used remains unclear. In 2022, the Seattle Times spoke with Captain Jack Bunnell about the truth of what makes it on the screen. He had some pretty serious accusations to make, including that there are some Deadliest Catch captains who deliberately do things to make life on a crab boat more interesting for the cameras. Bunnell claimed longtime captain Jake Anderson would deliberately guide his boat into waves to make the biggest impact. This was dangerous, and Bunnell actually got hurt on board Anderson's ship. Bunnell also claimed that Anderson pushed the crew beyond their limits and ordered them to set up crab pots on the deck in a way that's not necessarily the safest. Bunnell said, "You got to make it exciting somehow. What we do, hauling pots 24 hours a day, is boring." Anderson denied doing any such thing, and it's important to stress just how serious accusations that a captain would deliberately put their crew at risk are. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, not only is the fishing industry inherently dangerous, but Alaskan crab fishing has among the highest instances of injuries and fatalities.
I lost a trusted friend and an outstanding employee and a brother in life.
Weather, darkness, brutal winds, and unpredictable seas all make for potentially deadly conditions, and suggesting that a captain makes them more dangerous by showing off for the cameras is a grave accusation. Weather is unpredictable in the most temperate of places, but in the Bering Sea, things can get dicey at the drop of a hat. And while weather forecasters do their best, they're not perfect. For Deadliest Catch, capturing the weather that boats, captains, and crews are dealing with is tough. When Andy Hillstrand sat down to talk to Dockwalk, they asked him if the cameras were able to really convey the feeling of bad weather. Hillstrand replied, "A little bit. It's always worse than whatever they can capture, but they get close though."
On a day like today, every third wave might be that wave. And we don't want to see that wave.
There's a flip side to that, and it was highlighted in a 2022 post that made the rounds on Facebook. The photo showed Deadliest Catch mainstay Sig Hansen walking out of Dutch Harbor Airport with clear blue skies overhead, while crews stand by with a fire hose to make it look like he's walking out into a torrential downpour. The photo didn't just make the rounds on social media, it circulated among other crab boat captains and crews. While some pointed to the photo as evidence that they were better off not being on the show and being asked to perform for the cameras, Discovery issued a statement saying that the moment was an exception, not the norm. The fishing boats of Deadliest Catch aren't shown sitting next to each other, so it's easy to assume they're all around the same size. They're not, and that means that there are some big things that get left out of the show. For starters, let's take the Wizard, which is one of the larger boats at about 151 feet long. Now, compare that to the Lisa Marie.
The 78-foot Lisa Marie is the smallest boat in the crab fleet, barely enough space for the 5-man crew to maneuver around the pots.
Others hover in between, like the Time Bandit, which is 98 feet long. Size impacts quotas. In a nutshell, the bigger the boat, the bigger the quota. But apparently, the smaller boats were finding it more economical to sell their quotas to the bigger ones, and that was a big deal for one simple reason. The bigger the boat, the safer the crew. So why are there still crews out in the smaller boats? Watch the show, and it seems as though captains have no choice but to head out, but in reality, they could just sell their quota. The Seattle Times suggests they opt to fish because it's more lucrative to take the risks that go along with appearing on the show instead of taking the payout and letting bigger, safer boats do the heavy lifting. Just how much they pay is kept tightly under wraps. Elliott Neese was on Deadliest Catch from 2011 to 2015, and while he left the show in order to focus on his addiction issues, he was still officially the owner of the saga into at least 2019. Neese was vague about his future with the show at the time he left, but said that even if he wasn't heavily featured, the saga would be, although he has also hinted at the fact that there was possibly more going on behind the scenes than what was shown on camera.
I can't on TV. I ain't gonna lie.
Neese told Newswire, "I have my boat out and a crew will be on it. I won't be on it and neither will my dad. He basically was on there to hang out with me. A TV captain will be on the show, Jake Anderson. The real captain won't be seen on the show." Real captain? Discovery still lists Jake Anderson as the captain of the saga as of 2023, and it's unclear just what Neese meant by a TV captain. He did, however, make additional comments about how events on Deadliest Catch might not line up with reality, saying that his personality didn't play for the camera the way some might hope. In a 2014 interview with Boating magazine, he said, "I don't appease the camera, and maybe that doesn't always come off right. But remember, reality TV isn't real. It's entertainment. That's it." Reality television generally falls into the unscripted category, but according to a few captains featured on Deadliest Catch, it may not be as entirely unscripted and unplanned as it seems. Details are understandably scarce, but in 2023, boat captain Linda Greenlaw suggested that Deadliest Catch was different from her previous television experience in a big way. She told Spectrum News, "Filming of Deadliest Catch was more scripted than Swords' Life on the Line. Hey, 19 seasons in, the show has to be more than catching crabs or not. The popularity of the show speaks for itself." Northwestern captain Sig Hansen has also hinted that filming follows a behind-the-scenes outline. In a conversation with New Zealand's The Fishing website, Hansen was asked if the Bering Sea weather was always as bad as it looked, or if it was edited to look that way. He replied, "Everything that they film is accurate, but you will see a lot more of the foul weather as opposed to the calm days. I suppose that's what sells, but the bad weather is a reality." In 2020, the Deadliest Catch editors sat down with the Art of the Cut podcast to provide an in-depth look at what went on when filming wrapped and footage was sent to the post-production team. The finished product might look like it was pretty straightforward, but that's far from the truth, especially when it comes to sound. Video is only part of the show. Just try watching without the sound on and you'll see how important it is. But a lot of what makes it into the final show isn't real. Editor Joe Mikan explained, "A lot of times the recorded sound is unusable due to conditions or mics fail because it gets so cold and icy out there. And in that case, we will use sound effects." He said that using sounds other than what was actually recorded on the boat actually creates a more accurate experience. Editor Rob Butler agreed that their library of sound effects was a powerful tool, saying, "The atmosphere is one of the major draws to this show. It's all the creaks, it's the moans of the boat, the metal, the machinery, the waves." Deadliest Catch shows captains keeping track of counts and deckhands sorting through the crab that are pulled up from the depths, but what doesn't get mentioned is that some of the captains have gotten tagged with fines and penalties. In 2008, Captain Richard Kwasnick was cited for having a small percentage of undersized crab, and that's not unusual. Elliott Neese was tagged by authorities twice. In 2011, a small percentage of his catch was found to be undersized. And in 2014, he entered a guilty plea to having undersized and/or female crab. Also in 2014, former captain Peter Liskey was sanctioned for undersized crab. In 2016, TMZ published court documents revealing Brenna A captain Sean Dwyer had been fined for crab pots that weren't up to par. While those are pretty straightforward mistakes, other lawsuits have involved Discovery. In 2019, Seattle PI reported that a jury had awarded Time Bandit deckhand David Zielinski $1.35 million following a 2013 incident in which a firework exploded in his hand. The suit claimed that not only had Andy Hillstrand given orders to shoot fireworks at the nearby Cape Caution, but that, quote, a shockingly large quantity of potentially very dangerous fireworks for use by the crew were loaded on the boat in a massive safety violation. And as for the footage, it was claimed that Discovery filmed the incident, but the footage conveniently disappeared. In 2016, Captain Keith Colburn sat down for a conversation with All Your Screens about climate change and why he was one of the few fishermen to be vocal about it. Colburn confirmed that he had been a part of climate change paddles where no one else in the industry wanted to say it, but he said, "A few years ago, you would see maybe one large storm a year. Now you're seeing 7 or 9 a year. And it's because the water is warmer and it's making the weather more unpredictable."
Mother Nature's impact through warming trends and cooling trends dictates survival rates of juvenile crab, fish, everything.
For a long time, though, Deadliest Catch glossed over the impact of climate change. Finally, in 2017, Forbes described it as a guest star on the show. In a conversation with the Associated Press, executive producer R. Decker Watson Jr. shared why it had taken so long, saying, "It's a big risk for us to discuss climate change because so many people can think it's a political issue, when really it isn't, particularly in the context of the fishing fleet." Meanwhile, research from the Journal of Biogeography confirmed that king crab are leaving long familiar fishing grounds for cooler water, forcing fishing boats to follow them. Still, Watson suggested they weren't going to get into the why of the change, admitting, "At the end of the day, the job of Deadliest Catch isn't to teach people, it's to keep people at the edge of their seats."